Hello students, welcome to Laex Excellence. Welcome to the 63rd weekly magazine where we'll be covering from 7th May to 13th May 2018. Right? So let's quickly see what are the important issues in this particular week. Yes. So last week we actually observed Krishna Circuit where the intention was to ensure that the places where Lord Krishna has his relevance was actually chosen. Now you have something known as the Rambabu circuit. Okay, here we are actually trying to connect India with Nepal as well. That is Janakpuri or Janakpur in Nepal is connected with Ayodhya. So the birthplace of Sita is connected with the birthplace of Ayodhya or birthplace of Rama. Along with this, you also observe, right, some other destinations like Nandigram, Shringverpur, Chitrakoot, Sitamarhi, Buxar, Darbhanga, Chitrakoot, Mahendragiri, Jagdalpur, Nasik, Nagpur, Bhadrachalam, Hampi, Rameshwaram. So you can see it is covering both North and South India, and it is a pan-India circuit where the tourists, if at all they want to cover all these places, a connectivity will be available. So that if they move from one place, the other place destination will be easy for them. And the main ambition of all these is to ensure that the tourism internally has very good connectivity, and that has to contribute. And every region, some places have more prominence and the other places, even though it is of the same god, because of the connectivity or some other issues, you may not see similar development in the other region. So government is planning to ensure that all these places are connected in such a way that whoever wants to go through one or two places, they can visit the other places and cover it completely. So earlier you might have seen where people, whenever they used to go to Kashi, they used to go to Rameshwaram and then come back. So there was some circuit. So now here when we talk about the 15 destinations which are stationed at different parts of the country, that will also ensure that the development of each one of these regions. The second most important issue, which is from environment and ecology, but nowadays UPSC is asking factual data and some information as well. So from that point of view, if you look at the Taj discoloration, why is there impact on Taj, right? For that, people say that, especially the ASI has told Supreme Court that, whenever people visit, right, they are entering into the Taj by wearing socks which is not washed, and the algae and other aspects are very, very crucial reasons for the discoloration of the Taj. Whereas the Supreme Court has said that all these reasons are not fair. You have to ensure that the maintenance is regular and you are not doing much to preserve the monument, is what the Supreme Court has argued. But here I want you to know that some of the major issues which has led to the discoloration is this. And then India is getting around $200 million loan for the nutrition mission. I want you to understand that when we talk about the sustainable development goals, it is our responsibility to ensure that maternal mortality rate, infant mortality rate, right? And also when we talk about the nutrition in the pregnant and lactating women, and also adolescent girls, Sabla and many other schemes. If all these have to be successful, then the nutrition mission which India has planned has to be successful. And this is not the first time that we have some nutrition mission. This is there right from 1980s itself. But the point is, because of the consistent efforts from that time, and today as there is more devolution of funds, we are in a position to ensure that in the Millennium Development Goals we achieved some of the things associated with these. But today the government's main ambition is also to ensure that the Sustainable Development Goals are also reached on time. You might have seen the Prime Minister is also talking about giving funds to the states on the basis of the results. Outcome based funding needs to be done when it comes to this. And this concept of outcome based funds is not only from the central government to the state government, but also when we are talking about the UNDP and others at the international level, they are also saying that whenever you talk about devolution of funds, right, that should be on the basis of outcomes. For this, what India and other countries are saying is, we will give our reports, we will put our own targets and we will give our reports on the basis of their achievement, that whatever we have said, you give money. But few countries have said that we are not willing to accept anything on the basis of this, because you need to help us as there are multiple other criterias. That is, we do not have enough food, we do not have proper aid, and there is civil war. All these factors are there. If you stop giving us money in the name of outcome, we may be starved to death. So because of all these reasons, now it has come to a conclusion that at least for next few years money will be transferred, but there will be some sort of accountability ensured. So for me, from prelims point of view, what is it that is important? We need to know some of the nutritious mission. So when we talk about this, I want you to focus on the Poshan Abhiyan, which the government has actually launched on International Women's Day, that is March 8th, 2018. Now here UPSC may give you, like this year they have not asked, so high possibility whenever it is completely implemented, as they have already got the fund, the implementation will start. And I have repeatedly told you that whenever UPSC asks you any prelims based question, that will be only when the program is implemented. So if you look at this Poshan Abhiyan, right, the target of the mission is to bring down stunting among children in the age group of 0 to 6 years from 38.4% to 25%. Can you see? They are not saying that they will reduce it completely, but it will be reduced by almost around 13.4%, not more than that. I hope it is clear. The reason why we need to understand these are, right, usually people will feel that whenever there is a mission, they try to write that they will eradicate it. So that will take several years. That is the reason why government is always under criticism by the opposition. Opposition says that till 25% is there, but government says that our ambition was to reduce from 38.4 to 25%. You take Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Swachh Bharat Abhiyan was not about ensuring that every city will be clean, but the main ambition of that was to ensure that toilets are constructed in almost all the households in the village. And whenever we talk about rural electrification, I told you, 10% of the households, if they get connectivity, then we call it as the village is electrified. So these are some of the points that we need to have clarity. You can't blame government in your answers. You have to say whether the government has reached its target or not. Other targets, stunting again by 6%, that is every year you have to reduce it 2% per annum. Prevent and reduce undernutrition, that is underweight prevalence in children. If you see, one of the major reason for the stunting is undernutrition. Again, this also has to be reduced. Reduce prevalence of anemia among young children. right? Reduce the prevalence of anemia among women, where many say that if you can't prevent it in the pregnant and lactating woman, then there is a possibility that this will be transferred to the children. So if you are talking about the nutritious program of the children, then the role of pregnant and lactating women is also very, very important. Alright guys, so these are some of the things that is important. Let us see. With a focus on improving the coverage and quality of child development scheme, nutritious services to pregnant and lactating women and children under 3 years of age. The project will include investments in improving the skills and capacities of the staff and community nutrition workers. Very, very important. Funds, whenever you are giving, you have to ensure that it is also provided for the skill improvement of the Anganwadi workers or primary health care centers, whoever is there. It also aims at strengthening systems of citizen engagement, where you should ensure that there is grievance redress and establishing mobile technology, where information will be passed on in the local languages to the pregnant and lactating women about the program deadlines and when they have to come and take the respective injections, or if it is the food or anything. And then the project will additionally ensure coverage of all nutrition related schemes and provide performance based incentives, right? Not only for the states but also for the health workers. Remember guys, incentives is one of the most important criteria for the people to work, whether it is in the private sector or in the public sector. Now the private sector was very good in service delivery, mainly because they used to ensure that if you are in a day, let's say a courier service or so, in a day, if normally they have to give 100, right? If they can go for 150, they will get some incentive. Some or the other incentives are provided to each individual so that he will work more. Similarly, even in the public sector today, to improve the service delivery, incentives are being provided. In one of the measures that you try to tell that how to improve public service delivery, you can say that you have to provide incentives, and you also have to recognize the work of the people who are very effective in the system. Whenever you do measures taken by the private players in the public sector, then usually there is a possibility that people will implement it. So it's important for us also to ensure that in ethics case studies and all, whenever we talk about measures to improve service delivery, these points are noted. Yes. And the next most important thing is about a disease or health based, where the WHO has said that you have to limit the trans fats. What is the meaning of this? See, always remember, you have two major types of diseases, and the one which is usually spreading in the tropical region or poor countries, developing and least developed countries are, right, where we call it as vector based, or we may also call it as the one which moves because of the mosquitoes, house flies and many other things. And this spreads from one region to another region mainly because of lack of cleanliness and all. But whenever you talk about rich communities or also states, especially developing and developed, upper class in the developing and developed, whenever you talk about, most of the people there, they die because of the diseases associated with trans fats. So you might see that obesity is one of the main reason for several of these diseases, and these have to be prevented at any cost. So WHO has also said that apart from preventing the communicable diseases, it is also important for us to focus on working for the non-communicable diseases. So it is believed that almost around 54.7 million deaths around the world is because of the non-communicable diseases. But when we talk about the developing countries and all, the focus is mostly about the infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate and others. But here I want you people to understand that we are talking about the non-communicable diseases, and India should also work towards it in creating some sort of awareness in the people people, so that even these deaths can be reduced. And now when it comes to key recommendations, saturated fatty acids should not comprise more than 10% of the daily calorie intake. Now trans fatty acids, even it should not be more than 10% of your daily calorie intake. And heart healthy polyunsaturated fatty acids is very, very important, right? And all these recommendations should be ensured for both adults and children. So let us see some of the saturated fatty acids. Nowadays, what is UPSC doing? As this issue is in news, they may not ask you WHO, non-communicable diseases and all, but they may directly ask you which of the following are under the saturated fatty acids. Right? So you should try to remember these. And then they may also ask you trans fats. So trans fatty acids, if they are asking, then just try to remember this as well. Right? Yeah. Then the next most important issue that we need to see is about NAM, non-alignment movement. Today the relevance of NAM has reduced mainly because BJP, which is in power, did not participate even in the NAM meetings. The meaning of this is the relevance of NAM is reducing day by day, and you have to ensure that a new cause is arised, or India should use this as a very good platform to ensure that some other things, whether it is in WTO or in climate change conferences or anywhere, whenever there is a dispute between developed and developing countries, NAM should be actually made as a platform. So this is what the article tries to talk. The next issue that we need to see is with respect to protest over citizenship for Hindu migrants. This is a very important issue when it comes to internal security. Okay, the reason for this is, when we talk about the citizenship rights, yes, from polity you have to see. But when we talk about the Hindu migrants, where are we talking? This is present in the Assam. Right. In Assam in 1985, there was huge dispute in the state, mainly because of the participation of most of the people from Bangladesh who had migrated during the civil war in Bangladesh to Assam, and they had got the voter IDs and they were participating in the elections. At that time, the government of India along with the Assam, the groups which were fighting, the government sat and actually signed Assam Accord. And according to this Assam Accord, where the government said that we are not going to give voting rights to anyone who are going to come after this particular date. But Indian government now has said that, the persecuted Hindus, Jains, Christians and others from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, anywhere in the countries, around us, if they come to India, then we are going to protect them, especially minorities in these neighboring countries. If they are coming, we are going to protect them, or we are going to give citizenship to them. But in the Assam Accord, they said that whoever migrates after 1971, they will be deported. But here there is a religious angle to it. The government is saying that Bangladesh and all are Muslim dominated countries. So there won't be any threat of persecution against Muslims in this region. So these people have to be deported back. But Hindus, right, Sikhs and others may be persecuted. So we need to ensure that we protect these communities, and their government is saying that we will give citizenship to these particular communities, but not the Muslim communities from the Muslim dominated countries. So that is the dispute. And here, right, whenever the Indian government is talking about giving citizenship to the Hindu migrants, people in Assam are protesting, where they are saying that you can't give, as this will be violating Assam Accord. So whatever I have told is given here. Just go through this article once. In polity, you have something known as parliamentary privileges, where the MPs or MLAs will actually have certain privileges where whatever they discuss, debate or so, they can keep it as private and they can ensure that these are not accessible to outsiders, even to the media. But the Supreme Court has said that the MP panel which actually discusses on certain issues, they are public papers and not the private papers. That is, parliamentary privileges cannot be extended on these. Here the case was actually with respect to certain medicines and others which these MP panel had recommended. Now, if you are actually recommending on a basis of certain report and this report cannot be kept aside, this report has to be given to the public. And the public also has to go through the report and see whether the decision is taken on the basis of fair, transparent manner, or is it because of some corruption or so. The reason is the medical companies can actually pay huge money and ensure that they get recommendations for its usage. And once its recommendations comes out, not only they make huge money, but if these products has any side effect, that will have negative impact on the society as well. So the lady who actually filed a petition actually asked that the medicine which you are saying is safe, right, it is being used against or it is being tested on few individuals and it is believed that those people have died. So what are those reports? We need entire details on the basis of which you have taken decision. But the MPs actually said that this is our privilege, we won't be giving it. But the Supreme Court has said that you have to disclose it as it is public papers. So the next issue that we need to see is actually with respect to senior citizen draft bill. As it is a bill, there may be certain changes to it, but let's see some of the points which are there in the bill. If it is passed, it would become an act and it would be an amended version of 2007. What are some of the key provisions? The bill enhances the jail term for those found abandoning or abusing their parents, whoever are 60 years or older, to 6 months from the existing 3 months. The bill expands the definition of children. Earlier only biological children were considered, now daughter-in-law, son-in-law or adopted and stepchildren are also they also have the duty. It extends the definition of maintenance beyond provision of food, clothing and all. They also should ensure safety and security. Senior citizens can also approach maintenance tribunal in case their children neglect or refuse to maintain them, so that they can demand some money. The bill proposes to make monthly maintenance amount variable, as people who earn more should contribute more and people who earn less should contribute less. The bill also introduces a punitive measure of up to 1 month imprisonment in case monthly allowance remains unpaid. Currently various government and private schemes for insurance, health, housing and travel have varied cutoff age for offering benefits meant for senior citizens, but this bill mandates that across it should be made for 60 years. For all the schemes, central government deals it differently, state governments department wise it varies, but everything should be made 60 years for the senior citizen. Yeah. And in every district you should run at least one senior citizen care. Facts we are giving because of the increasing fact-based questions in prelims. You might have heard that Trump is actually going against the Iran nuclear deal, whereas European countries which had participated in this particular deal and they were party to the deal, they clearly say today, the deal was also known as, several people called it as E3+3. That is 3 European countries, that is UK, France and Germany. So along with this you had China, United States and Russia, right? This E3 countries has actually said that we are going to stick to the deal. Russia has also mentioned that who is violating the deal is not Iran, but the deal is violated by United States of America. But the Trump administration is saying that this will give enormous money to Iran for a significant period of time, and this deal has a time limit as well. That is, it has only till 2030 or for 30 years maximum, not beyond that. And during this time, Iran can make huge money, and later it can be independent of the sanctions. Second important thing, Iran today is free to go with ballistic missiles and all. So later if they develop the nuclear weapons or nuclear fuel, it would be easy for them to launch with the help of this. And you have not gone to the extent of verifiable, irreversible nuclear agreement which the Trump administration is doing with North Korea. So all these are some of the issues which United States of America has said, but Europe is saying that whatever we have promised, we are sticking to that, and we will owe that we will solve this. But the problem here is, the Trump administration is not understanding that today if you say no to a Iran nuclear deal which was signed by you before, why will North Korea trust you? If you sign a deal with North Korea today and the next government in United States, if they say we are not going to take up this deal, and again if the fight starts, right, North Korea will be at disadvantage. So North Korea may not be interested to talk with United States or follow all its orders. You might see United States is single-handedly handling this entire episode, whereas when it came to Iran or some other countries, usually it was through United Nations. So that is the major difference between the Trump administration, which is taking all these issues at the bilateral level, whereas the earlier governments of United States of America usually focused on United Nations. So what is the major difference between these two? Whenever you have multiple stakeholders, the other party, whenever it is violating anything, then it will be under pressure globally. And United Nations, once if this becomes a act, now you take this Iran nuclear deal, it is ratified by the entire United Nations. And if anyone violates it, including Iran, then there will be huge sanctions on Iran, not only by United States, but it will be by United Nations. And if United Nations put sanctions, even India cannot say anything against it. So please try to understand the difference here. I hope it's clear. I'm trying to tell you that when United Nations is trying to put sanctions, right, then including India, Chabbar port, nothing will come into picture. We also have to go for sanctions. But if US is putting sanctions, we are not interested. We can openly say that we are concerned only about United Nations. Similarly, if US is going out of the deal, right, the impact in the globe will be mostly for United States and not for any other country. So this is a clear indication that many of the trusted allies of United States is playing neutral today. They can't support United States. At the same time, they cannot support Russia or other countries. I want you to know that May 11th every year is actually celebrated as the National Technology Day since 1999. The reason is not only associated with the, May 11th you had the Pokhran test, correct? Along with this you also have, Hansa 3. That is, India's first indigenous aircraft was first tested on the same day in 1998. Successful test firing of Trishul, a short-range missile made in India, was also done on the same day. So, UPSC may ask you that National Technology Day is celebrated because of the following reasons. Mostly people will try to remember this, but they won't remember these two. So, 1 only, 2 only, 3 only will be very difficult. And nowadays what UPSC is doing, they are trying to change the dates or they are trying to change the names of this. Again, that would make it difficult. Next, similar to the Human Development Index, you have something known as Multi-Dimensional Poverty Index, where today the poverty level has fell from 55 to 21%, and the main reason for this fall is the southern states. Here the article tries to be biased for the BJP government, mainly because it tries to show completely that it is because of the southern states where the BJP influence is less, or the southern states which is not benefited much because of the central government policies, and these are implemented better by the state government funds itself. There are multiple controversies in the article. We are not interested in that. What we are trying to see here is the poverty levels actually fell from 55% to 21%, and the main reason for this is the reduction in the southern states. And please guys, don't try to elaborate these type of points, mainly because I have seen certain students from south who were questioned in the interview board that do you support South India to become a separate country, mainly because they are taking the burden of the North Indian states, because they are contributing to the GDP, their poverty, all this is good. But when it comes to devolution of funds by the central government, not all the funds are reaching to the southern states who are contributing, but it is going to the northern states which are not performing better. These are some of the questions which they try to ask you. Please don't fall into prey by actually giving these type of data, right? Never talk about breaking the country as civil servants. The next important thing from the environment and ecology is about the Indus dolphins. You might have heard about the Ganges dolphins, but first organized census is there about the Indus dolphins, and you know that Indus and its tributaries which are present in India have less area when compared to the one which is present in Pakistan. So usually Indus dolphins are predominant in Pakistan, but when it comes to India, in Punjab, near the Harike Talwara barrage on the Beas river, we usually have the Indus dolphins, and there the census is being conducted. So it's important for you to remember this. The next important thing, interior exploration using seismic investigations, geodesy and heat transport. The first ever mission to study the heart of the Mars is being conducted by the NASA, and the mission is on board as Atlas 5. Right, it is a part of NASA's discovery program managed by the agency's Marshall Space Flight Center. Right, once in a while when it comes to Mars and all, they may ask you, and even in the geography optional, when they talk about the solar system, the study, application and all, this can be asked. So what is the main ambition of this? With the help of seismic waves, you are aware that interior of the earth can be studied. Similarly, with the help of the seismic waves, the Mars quakes, that is earthquakes in Mars, Mars quakes, on the basis of this we are planning to develop the interior of the Mars, how exactly the layers and all are present. So the next issue that we need to see is about the multiple threats that are there for the Himalayan biodiversity. When we talk about the Himalayan biodiversity, right, it is about 12% of the country's landmass, but 30.16% of its fauna is present in this region. And the next most important thing is it is spread across 6 states. Usually UPSC will ask you through how many states the Himalayas are actually present. So we talk about Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Sikkim, West Bengal, that is Darjeeling part, to Arunachal Pradesh in the far east, right, including the Trans-Himalayas that we actually consider. Here we are talking about Trans-Himalayas, we are talking about Greater Himalayas, like Lesser Himalayas and Shivaliks. And when we talk about the species, they are the entire region spread over 33.95 lakh square kilometer, and it is home to 280 species of mammals, 940 species of birds, 316 species of fishes. Factual data is very important. Please try to see carefully. Right, Central Himalayas are the richest in the faunal diversity. So this can be asked. Among the Himalayas, which part is the richest? It is Central Himalayas. I want you to note down these particular factual data. So before prelims, when you can revise these, it will be helpful. right? And then the Indian Himalayas have 131 protected sites which cover 9.6% of the entire protected areas, almost same as Western Ghats. Western Ghats is like 10%. So which is the highest? Western Ghats is the highest, right? And then when we talk about certain species critically endangered like pygmy hog, Namdappa flying squirrel, endangered snow leopard, red panda, Kashmiri grey langur, all this are important. 52 species of birds are also in the threatened category like the endangered white-bellied heron, Siberian crane and vulnerable necks like black-necked crane. I'll tell you, eagles and vultures are in news. This year they didn't ask you, but there is high possibility in 2019 they may ask you. Remember, certain areas after a particular point of time, like when people think we are seeing this from last 2 to 3 years, but there is no question, right? So they leave it, but that is the year they focus on that particular areas. So you have to go through those things carefully once, right? And then when we talk about the last important issue of the week, that is RBI for prompt corrective action. RBI has said that in any bank, if the non-performing assets have increased, then we will go for prompt corrective action, where we will try to ensure that we will halt branch expansion and also stop dividend payments. It can even cap a bank's lending limit to one entity or sector. Other corrective action that can be imposed on banks include special audit, restructuring operations and activation of the recovery plan, right? So RBI can take complete control of the bank and also ensure that they will pass certain measures which will actually help the banks to get back their money. Until and unless that is done, the banks cannot perform their regular functions. This is what the RBI is actually asking. RBI, if it is also asking that we should be in a position to appoint who will be taking decisions, chairman, and also that if any mistake happens, we can hold them responsible and also ensure that the working of the bank system is as transparent as possible, and they are going to give proper information to RBI, and RBI can take measures according to the situation of the banks. Right guys, so these are some of the important issues that we had to cover in this particular week. Fine guys, so apart from this, I just want to tell you that geography optional, anthropology, public administration optional are starting. Geography will be dealt completely by me. Rambabu sir will be dealing with public administration, and there is a team for anthropology which is already released, right? Everything will be shown to you at the end of this, so that whoever is interested, whether it is for test series or if we are talking about the optionals, you can take online as well. Thank you guys, thanks for watching.